May, you got Jaden Daniels. We would assume those are going to be the top 3 picks in some order. We'll see how much, if any, actual on-the-field work they choose to do this week in Indianapolis. The Combine is more interesting, to me at least, because it's where all the wheeling and dealing and discussion behind the scenes takes place. Will we learn anything about Kirk Cousins, about Baker Mayfield, about Russell Wilson? And then, of course, what feels like the biggest question of all, any day now will we hear word that the Bears are trading Justin Fields and resetting the clock with one of those rookies at the top. Which team would be vying for his service in the near future? It's an interesting question, and depending on how you want to slice it, you can make Justin Fields' case extremely effectively. If you look at his last 20 games compared to the last 20 games for Lamar Jackson, who, oh, by the way, won the MVP this year, the numbers look startlingly similar. Now, the biggest number that, of course, isn't even remotely similar is that the Ravens won almost all of their games, and the Bears most certainly did not. The point is, Justin Fields, in the eyes of some, has risen above what has been around him and made himself into an attractive trade candidate right now as we begin this week. I know you will be in Indianapolis beginning Wednesday. What is your sense of just how hot these talks may get and how quickly?
Yeah, I think you're right that it could happen any day, but it doesn't need to, right? Ryan Poles, the Bears GM, is not like, he's not concerned about our rundown, right? Like, he's going to go through his process and be deliberate. He did this last year, and he went to the Combine with the 1 pick and came out of it with, the bones of a deal with Carolina that got done shortly thereafter. Now, what we don't know is what they're going to do. Are they going to make the pick? Are they going to trade the pick and keep Fields? Are they going to make the pick and trade Fields? Those things need to be sorted out yet. And if they are trading Fields, it could take a little longer than it took last year because he could have multiple teams interested. Fields is 24 years old. 3 years ago, he was a first-round pick. He's well regarded as a prospect. Still a prospect, but well regarded as a prospect. And I think there are teams that look at him, what he's been able to do so far, what his tools are, and would like to try and build around that. So if you have more than one of those, then you can play them off each other and get the deal, as high as you want. If you know you're going to sit tight at number 1 and make that pick, you could take it all the way up till the draft, I'm sorry to tell you.
Graziano brought up an interesting question in our meeting, and I'm going to put it to you, Dominique Foxworth, as directly as I can. If you are a team that feels like you're a quarterback away and you trade for Justin Fields right now, do you say to yourself, that's it, we're a contender? Are you ready to say Justin Fields is ready to be that guy right now?
Not based on what we've seen so far, and I'm a Justin Fields fan. I think a lot of his shortcomings up until this point can fairly be blamed on the organization more than him, but it doesn't matter. He's still kind of behind as far as development's concerned. He hasn't gotten a whole lot better, and honestly, we haven't seen him display some of the ability that he showed in college from the pocket yet in the league. He's a great deep ball thrower and obviously a great running quarterback also. But building an entire offense around that is something that I think offensive coordinators should be excited about, but it's not something that we've seen happen just yet.
What do you think, D-Wood? Are you certain that we keep hearing Pittsburgh, we keep hearing Atlanta? Those are the obvious ones, and there are always the not-so-obvious ones that pop up along the way. But we say, ooh, the Steelers are a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender. Is Justin Fields ready to be that quarterback?
No. His body of work has not said that. And I always said potential gets you fired, right? The one thing with Justin Fields is you see the potential. You see it. Like, we've seen flashes of him being the type of player that can make a huge impact in this league. But the difference between players like Justin Fields and some of the, the elite players is those guys do it play after play, game after game. So with Justin Fields, whether he's in Chicago or whether he moves on, someone's going to have to develop him.
Right.
Someone's going to have to get out of him the consistency that's necessary for us to be able to answer that question that you just posed.
Right. If you're trading for Justin Fields, and again, we're down a hypothetical road. We don't know what the Bears are going to do. We think they'll probably stay put and make the pick. But if you're trading for Justin Fields, you're trading for a lot. You have to, as Damian just said, develop him. He needs more coaching. He needs more development as a player. He is heading into year 4 of his rookie contract, which means we're coming up on the time where you have to decide whether and how much to pay him. And that is something you're also trading for as well. So I think it's a mistake to ask the question of, like, which contender is Justin Fields away from being a championship team. I think there's more to it than that. tremendous potential still, and we've seen the flashes of what he does that's great. But if you acquire him, you're still acquiring something akin to a project.
Here's what else. Yes, a project, sure. But Dominique, I would use the flip side of it, which is to say more young quarterbacks are ruined than developed. So if you just look at the draft in which he was selected, no one is saying, well, we're Zach Wilson away from going to the Super Bowl. No one is saying we're Mac Jones away from. No one is saying we're Trey Lance away. And you could argue all three of those guys have been in better situations than Justin Fields has been in. Certainly Trey Lance was drafted into a better situation. He got hurt. He's on the best team. Zach Wilson would be at least Zach Wilson's coach hasn't gotten fired, right? I mean, and he had the opportunity to have Aaron Rodgers with him. You want to say it's one or the other, but no one is putting Zach Wilson's numbers up there next to Lamar Jackson's numbers and saying, they don't look so bad. Zach Wilson looks like a guy who's probably going to be out of the league next year. My point is, Justin Fields has risen above trying circumstances and at least made himself a person, Neek, who's in these conversations.
Oh yeah, I think the Bears probably would have stayed with him if it wasn't for the fact that Caleb Williams and Drake May are such highly touted prospects. I don't think that Justin Fields has been a bust by any stretch, but I do think that he has not been as good as we anticipated him being. And showing these flashes, I think, and I started this by saying I would put more responsibility on the Bears than I would Justin Fields for how his career has turned out so far. But that doesn't change the fact that we rarely see guys who are like highly touted, future like MVP caliber talents come into the league and then move to another team and then become that version of themselves. It's not something that we see routinely. So whether it's his fault for having the career start off as poorly as it was or the Bears' fault, the fact of the matter is we are in a situation where the early part of his career is still promising is the nicest thing